Hello, and welcome to my final presentation in leadership and management. For this assignment, I chose to conduct an interview with Doug Carlson, who is a VP of Boeing contracts in Southeast Asia and Russia. Doug happens to be my father, and I chose to conduct an interview with him because of my long-lasting passion for aviation throughout my life. And as I've been away in college over the years, it's been hard to stay in contact with him about his job. So I took this opportunity to dive a little bit deeper into what he does. How I've laid out this interview for you is each bullet point represents a question that I came and asked my dad. Basically, it is in his own words to an extent. So beginning with motivation, it's really important that you realize that the customer will always come first. It is what ensures the Boeing name to stay strong throughout its history. And another big motivator is just teamwork in general. It's what helps everyone stay on track, speed up delivery times, and making sure that all numbers add up correctly in the end, because that's a huge thing for both customers and employers. My dad was adamant on making sure he values his employees because they're your main reason and main resource for success, as each and every one of you are working together to help one another succeed and to get the job done. Another thing my dad has always been adamant on is being on time, and on time is early. In this industry, there's just no room for tardiness. Everyone around you is working around the clock all the time. They're dealing with different regions, different continents. So dealing with different time zones is very crucial to be on time for, because when you're dealing with customers across the world, they don't have time for your tardiness. And it's just a very professional thing and a courteous thing for that customer. Another big motivator is just the personal gain. When you're with a team, you're always spending hours together putting different deals together, different contracts together. So when you get to bring home a big deal, it's huge for the company, but it's also huge for your own personal confidence. Another thing is just recognition. In this industry, there's always going to be somebody ahead of you on the totem pole. So when your team and you as an individual are able to bring in that big deal, it it makes you stand out. And closing a big deal allows you to stand out and potentially change your future. And that's the biggest thing in this company. When looking at leadership, um, it's really important to just stand your ground and be yourself. Um, you cannot let a bad leader discourage you. Uh, Allowing yourself to stay confident and have faith that will turn out in your favor in the end is huge. Again, if you and your leader are in a disagreement, it's very important to not start more of a conflict. That only draws more attention to you and can cause more of a situation down the road. Um, my dad has had instances like this before, and he expressed that if your peers and fellow employers feel as if you are correct, it will always turn in your favor. Staying on course to create your own vision is huge. Going with your gut is always the most important thing to do in certain situations, especially with dealing with customers. Going with your judgment call and just feeling what you believe is right can be the difference between getting a huge deal or not. I added this quote from one of our textbooks just because I thought it was very fitting for the leadership that my dad had explained throughout these questions I had asked him. So in contracts and sales, you can never leave enough time for the customer, and pushing them into a deal can be very uncomfortable and it can damage the entire relationship. A lot of times you'll have several meetings with the customer. It could be 3 or 4 times in a certain week. So pushing them to make a deal is not going to help your case at all. You need to be very patient with them. But on the flip side, it's important that you're a good negotiator, because a lot of customers can be conservative, but on the other side, they can be very aggressive. And letting your guard down in pressure pack situations can determine whether or not you get the deal or not. So being patient with the customer and basically just really being there for them and listening is a huge thing. So this picture I posted is a picture of Jeju Airlines. It's a low budget carrier in Southeast South Korea. It's a airline that my dad's been working with for the past 2 years now, and they're a perfect example of being a very conservative yet hard to work with airline because they are such a low budget carrier, and they struggle to find the funds to buy the airplanes that they have been using. This particular airplane is a Boeing 737-800. It is one of the most popular 737s in the Boeing fleet. Approximately costs $80 million per. So as a low budget carrier, it can be very tough to find those funds. So Roland Ramirez is a colleague that my dad has worked with over the years, and he is a great example of who you want to follow. He has a very high intense personality with a lot of energy. He brings a lot to the table, brings a lot of confidence, doesn't make any excuses for poor work. Poor work does happen in this industry. Regardless of who you are, everyone's going to screw up at some point in their career. So it's really important that you just, stick to the basics and what you believe in, and Roland does that. And my dad is very happy because of that. It's always important to build a strong team. But with that strong team, it takes a lot of charisma and confidence and trust and just abilities, flat out ability. But the four things in that are what can really build a strong team. And that's how it's going to be successful in this business. And sitting down with individuals one-on-one helps the situation solve itself naturally. And that's what my dad has done over the years. If there's ever a team member who has been struggling or needs help along the way, it just really makes the person feel better when you bring them in on their own versus talking to them within the group. And my dad has really done that well over the years. And when looking at slow followers, at first my dad was kind of hesitant to remember any of those, just because at his level, you don't get there from slow follower. You get there because you're ahead of the pack and you're wanting to make a difference. But basically, slow followers are very easy to spot out. It could be as simple as not being able to interact with a customer or failing to really just be overwhelmed by the entire process of selling airplanes. A huge dilemma that my dad had faced, I actually remember this instance about 5 years ago, my senior year of high school. There was two coworkers that had worked together, and they married early on in their careers, and they just continued to work at Boeing and continued to work up at the top of the level, and they were almost to the top of the food chain, and they had two kids together, and the husband came out as gay, and it was very shocking to the entire contract department. And the individual who was aware of the distraction just politely resigned. And, my dad basically said it was just best thing to do in the interest of his professional career and for the success of our contracts region in the future. So these are my references from the leadership research findings, our textbook in class this semester. I really appreciated this assignment. It was a great opportunity to get to know my dad at a higher level, and it really taught me a lot of things just in the leadership perspective in the company at Boeing. So thank you.